Welcome to the Clangers Pod. This week we'll be talking about the best car we never had, unfortunate graffiti, an apricot arouser, and the ongoing battle of car, or KA. Oh, and how Craig and I were basically honorary members of the pop group Aha.
If you're new to the pod, we are three old road testers that used to work at Auto Express, and we're serial crap car collectors who witter on about cars from the late 1990s and early 2000s. These are the models that are stuck between being classics and bangers. They are the clangers. I'm Mike Askew.
I'm Tom Barnard.
And I'm Craig Cheetham.
But as always, we start off by finding out what Craig has bought or sold this week.
Well, I'm glad you're asking me now, because if you'd have asked me an hour ago, the answer would have been nothing. But I didn't want to let any of you down. So even though we were due on air with an hour to go, at the 11th hour, I stepped in and I bought a car. The story with this one is that I'm doing a charity rally in June next year. It's brilliant for a charity called Little Miracles, which looks after children with a limited life limiting conditions and various serious illnesses. It's a very, very noble charity. And a friend of mine, who's also a sponsor of my rugby club, is organising it. And it would be rude of me not to take part, given that I'm known for my love of terrible old cars. So in order to take part in this event, obviously I didn't want to use one of the terrible old cars I already own when presented with an excuse to buy another. So that's exactly what I've just done, I think 1 hour and 12 minutes ago.
Okay, and what is it?
It's a Renault Megane Estate, 2005.
So the newer shape, the big bum shape.
It would have a big bum were it not an estate, but they put an even bigger bum on that removed the big bum, didn't they? So I suppose what it does is it loses that car's one unique styling feature. But actually, I think it's the Tourer, isn't it, rather than the estate? I think it's quite a handsome looking car. It's a really nice spec. It's a Privilege, which means it's black. It's got full grey leather, 6-speed gearbox. It's the 1.9 diesel, which in a Megane, I think it's 130 horsepower. Correct me if I'm wrong. Should actually, get it down the road quite well. And I hope so, because I'm going a long way in it.
Mileage, money, what are we talking
It's
here?
done 125,000 miles,
Okay.
and I bought it from British car auctions in Manchester for the princely sum of 200 quid, and I've not seen it. I've no idea what it looks like. But it does actually look quite smart in the photos, and I'll find out in June when I drive it to Pisa and back in 4 days.
Wow.
I have a prediction
Mm-hmm.
that you will not take that car to Pisa.
Why?
You personally, because you can't go 6 months with an excuse to buy a car without buying. You'll find something else even more ridiculous and usable, and you'll say, "Oh, it's the right color for my sponsorship or something," and you will buy something else. It's
Could happen.
nuts. It's nuts that you have 6 months of an excuse, and you will go, "No, I'm buying a car now." You could
I
buy a
have to
car.
pull you up on that though, because I'm doing another charity event in May, uh, where we're going to M Valhalla in the Netherlands, and I've already bought my car for that as well. That's Peugeot 309 GLD that we spoke about before on
Oh
here.
yes.
That's not going anywhere because it's cool as hell, and it's well, I've already committed to taking it. So yeah, I mean, I might service it between now and then, but it's definitely going.
Now, I wager that you will take that car to that first one you spoke about, but you will have sold it and bought it back in the meantime, because that'll be Pete Craig. You'll have sold it to someone as a swap for a 206 or something, and then they'll find it. They've suddenly had 4 kids and decided they need something else. So yeah, you'll have bought and sold it. I reckon you there. It'll change hands before you actually take it. That's my prediction.
I do have a Plan B car for Pisa actually, which is a Peugeot 607. Just lying around. It's a very comfy way to travel, isn't it? But it's got a gearbox fault at the moment, so I don't know whether that's terminal or not.
I mean, you'd be comfortable sitting in the hard shoulder waiting to come and
You will
collect
be.
it, won't you?
Double glazed as well, which is quite cool.
Now, I believe we've also had a message from our our biggest fan. Have we, Mike?
We have, yes, another voice note message from our biggest fan. I will play it now, and you got to ready some answers for this.
Okay.
Hello, chaps. Your number one Clangers podcast fan here, James Baggett. Hope you're all well. Very much enjoyed the latest episode, and it led me to a question completely unconnected to the golf platform. But I wanted to know, having been staffers at Auto Express and the rivalry with Autocar, knowing how deep that ran, which scoop are you most proud of? Was there a time that you scooped your rivals and you're incredibly proud of it? Anyway, if you get time to answer my question, I will appreciate it. Carry on what you're doing, loving the show, etc., etc. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Before we go into this, chaps, have either of you seen the film Misery, the adaptation of the Stephen King novel?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Baggett keeps popping up. I'm just worried that he might tie me to a bed next time I'm somewhere near Gosport and, take a mallet to my ankles or something.
That's a different kind of video. That is great. Yeah,
You're not worried about it, no? No.
no, I mean, if us, we'd be worried about it, but you, maybe not so much. But
Fair enough.
yeah.
Anyway, I'll let Tom go first with this one because I know
Uh,
that he's got a great story.
Yeah, so I was in the office one day at Auto Express, and a chap rang up and said, "Did we want pictures of the new Bentley?" And we'd heard rumours of this Bentley, which was the Conti GT and the Flying Spur. And I said, "Yeah, what have you got?" And he said, "I've got undisguised pictures in the styling studio." And so I went, "Well, okay, can we see them?" And he went, "No, I'm not going to show them to you. You need to come and meet me to see them." I'm like, "Okay." And he said, "And bring some cash." And I think he wanted like $4,000 for them. I think he started at 5, and I haggled him down to 4 without even knowing what they were. And so I thought, well, I need cash. So I went up to the accounts department and said, "Can I have £4,000 in cash to take to a motorway service station to give to a bloke I don't know for some pictures that I don't know exist?" And understandably, they laughed at me. At which point, the publisher rang up the owner of the company, who was a chap called Felix Dennis, a big entrepreneur and multimillionaire, and said, "We need these. It will be good for the mag, and we can probably sell them on." So about 10 minutes later, a bloke from accounts who had laughed at me before came down with a brown envelope full of cash and said, "Sign there," with a bit of a stroppy face on. So then I set off in our long-term Vauxhall VX220 to a motorway service station where I met this bloke, and it was proper. I'll be wearing a red
That's
carnation
just
and
be
carrying a
discreet,
bottle at a
isn't it? A
time.
bright yellow VX220s.
No, it was the red one. It was the red one.
Oh, it's the red one. Okay, yeah.
And he said, "Here you go," and handed me a floppy disk, because that's how long ago it was, which I put into my laptop. And there were about 10 pictures of the Conti GT and the Flying Spur, undisguised in the styling studio with different grills on and things. And I went, "Oh, crikey." So gave him his cash, drove back. A big scoop, obviously. We then sold the pictures onto various European mags. And then he rang me up when he saw the mag, this bloke, whose name I never knew, and said, "Did I want some more?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, we'll have those." So went up, and they had pictures of some different cars. I can't remember what, one of them, in the reflection, I think it was the Flying Spur, you could see a 4x4, and it was a Bentley version of the Touareg, which of course eventually became the Bentayga. But this was apparently cancelled. They said no, because there was a guy who ran Bentley who didn't like SUVs. And so it was banned until he left, and then they brought out the Bentayga. But Bentley obviously got very upset, threatened us with solicitors and industrial espionage and all sorts of things. And we said, "Look, we won't print the pictures we've got of the 4x4, at which point they went a bit pale and said, "Okay, well, if you promise not to do that, then we won't say any more about it." So we didn't publish any more, but they never knew until now that we didn't actually have any proper pictures of the 4x4. But it was the first inkling that it was going to happen.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, mine doesn't involve meeting random men in motorway service station car parks. It's disappointing, really. But yeah, so well, back in 2004, I think it was, and not long after Tom had left Auto Express, actually, so it might have been 2005. I was left in charge for a week. And the chap, Dan, who I work with, who I'm sure you both remember, had planned a cover for the magazine, which would have been the new Ford C-Max, I think it was at the time. But unfortunately, one thing that hadn't been made clear to us before Dan went on holiday was that the Ford photos were embargoed, and we couldn't use them the week that I was in charge, which basically left us on Tuesday afternoon, which in Auto Express terms is very late in the week, with no cover. And I had to sort of come up with a plan to generate one from somewhere. Um, so myself and a couple of colleagues sat in a room. We said, "Look, we've got absolutely nothing to cover." So I said, "What about the Mini is flying off showroom, flying off forecourts. It's really popular. The rest of the car industry is going to do the same thing. Why don't we sort of come up with a computer generated image of a Fiat 500 and suggest that Fiat is about to do the same thing?" Uh, to which people sort of sat around, well, yeah, I mean, we can't really substantiate it, can we? And we're like, not really. But they have just launched a new Panda, and, it's kind of like where they're going, and they've got this small car platform. So why don't we just propose that it might happen? And does anybody get any better ideas? Nobody did. So we went to our CGI guy, and he created an image of a Fiat 500 of how it might look as a retro styled new car. Beautiful cherry red car as well. Appeared on the front cover with a load of blurb that we kind of put together from various things we knew about Fiat's powertrain and what engines it might have, and where it might sit in the market, looking at prices of the Mini and everything. What we didn't realise at the time was that all our guesswork was 100% spot on. And this was confirmed because I went into the office on the following Wednesday, which is the day the magazine came out. And within 2 minutes of sitting at my desk, my phone started ringing. Um, and it was a chap called Peter Newton, who was the then head of PR for Fiat. I'm sure you both remember Peter. He was always good for sparring with.
Legend.
Used to react quite angry in the first instance, but when he calmed down, was actually quite a good laugh. Yeah, Peter sort of says, "Where the bloody hell did you get your information from?" And I'm like, "What information, Peter?" He goes, "The new 500. How did you find out about it?" So I said, "Is that you confirming it, Peter?" So, "What do you mean? Am I confirming it? You know all about it already, don't you?" Um, well, we didn't. And he inadvertently confirmed that our speculation was correct, and he was quite worried because he'd had some phone calls from people in Italy who got rather upset about the fact that Auto Express had broken this story. But unbeknown to anybody in Fiat, both in the UK and internationally, we'd made the whole thing up. And then 4 weeks later at the Geneva Motor Show, there it was rotating on the stand, the Fiat Tripuno concept, which became the 500 that we know and love today. So yeah, it was a scoop of a fashion, but it was a scoop in a kind of make it up as you go along kind of way, which was very much the way of car magazines in the early 2000s, wasn't it?
No, I mean, there was going to be a point where we were going to get something right. I mean, there was new something every week, wasn't there? So it was,
Well, we
there was
absolutely nailed it though, because
well, in
our,
that
our
case,
CGI looks so much like the real car.
Mm. I seem to remember that with most of the scoops like that, there was some element of a hint of truth about it. Like, you'd ask a designer or something over dinner at a press
Yeah.
launch, and they'd go, "Oh, well, you just have to wait and see," with a wink. And that was enough for us
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
send the CGI artists into a frenzy and get them drawing something up, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
With some degree of accuracy sometimes. Um,
Sometimes. I can't
yeah.
remember anywhere where we were spectacularly off the mark.
Mm,
Or maybe there was the time actually where Rover tried to sue us over the Proton allegations. We'll talk about that in a different pod.
okay. Okay.
I can't
Mike,
remember
have you
that
got
one.
anything?
Only so much as Discovery 3, when that was due to come out. So we knew it was coming out. So it wasn't a massive scoop in terms of, we knew it was happening. But we'd been sent some spy shots, but it was like a series of spy shots. Some of them didn't have the front covered up. Some of them didn't have the rear covered up. And some of them didn't have the side covered up. But they're all sized different angles and bits and pieces. So I don't think we could have. I think we'd run out of money with our CGI person, or he was away, or something like that. So, I mean, I owe my entire career as a designer due to I had a pirated copy of Photoshop when I was at art college. So I managed to dig that out, and so I photoshopped an image together, and It was basically sort of stitching the three images together. So we had a front and a rear, and there was a lot of drawing in and everything like that. And I got it almost right, apart from the fact that on the spy shots we had, they showed there was no crease on the driver and the side, the front and the back doors. It was completely flat, but the front and the rear wings had that crease, that going along. And we all agreed that there was no way you'd build a car that with flat doors and a crease front and back. So I spent, probably 2 hours painting in these creases. Everything. Of course, when the damn thing came out, it didn't have the creases. It was completely as the photos were. So it was flat. So not only could I save myself some time, it would have been even more accurate. But again, we sold those renderings all across Europe. So yeah, we did all right.
I suppose we could have got the professionals in, really, had Tom not given our entire budget to some bloke in a motorway service station car.
Are you suggesting I wasn't a professional?
No, Mike, I've seen your work. Your work is first class. We'll talk about your Woody wagon on here one day that you made for me. You remember that?
I do remember the Woody wagon. Yeah, I think that is worthy of a mention in a future one. So yeah, no, that was good. So that was kind of our scoops, really. I mean, Autocar probably say that's fine. We knew about them anyway. But I mean, I think what James says is quite interesting because I don't think it's really appreciate it now. But it was kind of the Cold War of magazines, wasn't it? Back when we were doing it, double guessing what they were doing, and
I think it's all a bit more civilized now, isn't it?
well, it was kind of civilized. In the trenches, it was fairly civilized anyway, wasn't it? It was just the kind of, captains sitting in their offices, pushing bits of paper around that got more.
Well, I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was like at their offices, but certainly if they had something or any other magazine had an exclusive, then we'd wander in and the editor would kind of slap it onto our desks and say, "Why have they got that?"
I was just about to say that was the Tuesday. You'd always go into Dave John's office, and he'd always have a copy of Autocar early. And it doesn't matter what it was; the equivalent of drawing faces. I think he would go through every page of Autocar, and if we were behind a week on it, he'd write, "Where were we?" And then if we were ahead of them, he'd say, "Where were you?" Or losers or something like that. He'd annotate every single. I'd love to know where those old copies of Autocar were, because he would just or he'd just yawn if it went on for too long, or something like that. So he was great at it. I mean, I imagine they're all got shredded, but seeing those copies, brilliant.
If there's anybody who was working at Autocar at the time, we'd love to know if it was the same there.
The same thing when Patrick Fuller was sitting there drawing the same pages on it. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be interesting.
Now, much as I love a large Land Rover, Mike,
yes,
we're going to be talking this week about small cars. So I have a special place in my heart for small, basic cars and own a couple. But there was a sort of explosion of them in the 90s, wasn't there?
There was. I mean, it was kind of like the Super Mini became too big, didn't it? And I think there's one company that started that kind of revolution. That was Renault, which I do believe make you one of your dream cars then, Tom.
Yeah, the Mark I Renault Twingo, which was never sold here. But I was doing work experience at Autocar Haymarket, which at the time did a magazine called Car Choice. And I also did some at What Car. And Autocar had, I think, bought a Mark I Twingo in 1993, which was coriander green. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. Then the way it looked and the sitting in it and the interior and everything. And they also had one of the car stereo company, they wanted an upgrade because they thought the standard hi-fi was a bit rubbish. So they came along and they said, "Oh, the acoustics in this are great." So it had this amazing sound system. So the 18, 19-year-old me thought this very cool neon green car with this sound system was very, very nice. And ever since I've wanted one, and I've seen a couple at the Festival of the Unexceptional. There's one which is absolutely perfect. And there's another guy, a PR guy in the industry called Nick Bailey, who has one which is also perfect. And he says he'll sell to me one day. But I just thought it was great. And Patrick Lecomont, who's a mate of Craig's, I believe, isn't he? He designed it.
I did some PR for Patrick for his book. As really, really lovely chap. Actually, he was Renault's chief designer from I think 1991 until 2009 9 or something like that. Indeed, it's quite fitting that I bought one of his cars about an hour before we came on air, isn't it? Really. Um, but his signature at the time was to have that headlight over the indicator. So uh, his first job before he worked for Renault, he worked for Ford. In fact, he grew up. His dad worked for Ford as well, and Patrick's got the most curious accent because he spent half his life in Paris, and then half his life in Essex. Um, and I think his family lived in North Essex and the Cambridgeshire border, so he has this kind of Essex stroke French accent. So he speaks English perfectly, but with a very, very unusual tone. He's a real lovely guy. And his first job for Ford, I believe, was the headlights on the Fiesta Mark One. So if you look at Fiesta Mark One and you look at a Twingo, you've got the headlight above the orange simple indicator, exactly the same as on the Ford Cargo truck, which I believe was the first vehicle that he was allowed to design on his own. And then he went completely rogue, did the Ford Sierra, got told off for it and told not to do the same again. So he did the Mark III Granada and did the same again. And then a whole series of wild Renaults. So it's Patrick we have to thank for the Avon team and the Valsatis and the Megane with the bum. But I digress. You mentioned that Renault was the leader with the city cars, but I'm not 100% sure which came first, actually. I think the Fiat Cinquecento might have been there first. They were both 93 when they came out, weren't they? But I think possibly the Cinquecento came out in 92 in left-hand drive markets.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could trace that lineage back to sort of 126 and
Mm.
127, couldn't you? Really?
So I
I
suppose
mean,
Fiat, they
yeah.
persisted with it all the way through, didn't they? So we can't really credit Renault with inventing
I'll,
something
I'll,
that.
t- I'll tell you how I do date things is I try and imagine them in my head with number plates on and registration numbers. Now I
Mhm.
know that you get a K plate Twingo because I've seen them.
You
I don't
definitely
think
get
you
a
ever
K
got
plate
a K.
Cinquecento.
Really?
Yeah, there was
I can
one at
only
photo.
I can only
The
imagine them
fateful.
with L's.
Yeah,
Mm,
K Reg.
mm, mm. Well, there you
And,
go.
and one of our regular listeners, hello Paul, he'll tell us off if we get this wrong. So
Okay.
I'm going with Cinquecento, and if I'm wrong, then I'm quite happy to be corrected.
Okay. All right.
So,
Um,
we've both owned the very same Cinquecento, haven't we?
well, yes, this is how we got to be in a pop group, isn't it?
But
Sort
I
of.
think, well, before we go there though, don't you need to sort of mention your secret, your
Oh, my
your
secret car. Yeah.
yes,
I occasionally forget I own. So when I was
never happens to me.
you know, when I was first freelance and I'd had a company car for a long time and I thought I haven't had insurance in my own name. I'm going to need something cheap and I'm not quite sure when my money's going to run out because it takes time for the invoices to start coming in. I thought I needed a cheap car that's cheap to insure. And I thought back to what I had enjoyed driving. And at Auto Express, we had a car or a car or a KA, absolutely base model, early
Yeah.
one, in red. And
So,
we all thought it was fantastic. So if we needed to go to the Heathrow or something, and someone said, "Oh, you're going to have to take the car," we'd go fine, and we didn't care. It was one of those weird things where it didn't seem like a hardship to be given this quite cheap car, and so we loved it. So I thought, well, I want one of those. I'm going to try and find one because I knew they were cheap, but found out quite quickly that they were all rusty and wouldn't
Ford,
last
isn't
very
it?
long. Mm-mm. So I kept looking, and then there was one that had very low miles. It was 8,000 miles at a dealer, and I rang him up and I said, "Oh, how is it? Is it rusty?" And he kind of interviewed me about this car's quite special. What are you going to do with it? So I explained to him that I was a fan of them. I didn't want a rusty one. So he said, "Well, come down and see it." So I went down to his place in Watford, and he had it up on a four-post lift. And he said, "Have a look at it." And it was like brand new underneath. And I said, "Oh," so I went for a drive. It was absolutely perfect. There was quite a sad story about an old lady who'd had it and just wanted to keep mobile, so she'd kept it serviced and MOT'd. And so I bought it, and then thought, well,
So
the first thing
what
I'm going
happened to Tom?
to, I'm not
can't be
going to, I'm
Tom.
afraid.
Tom can't be first with the death story this week. This is
um,
That's not how it works.
Yeah,
so
right.
So I drowned it in under seal and stuff. And what was shocking was I got like a light down the end of the sill. So the front of the car, behind the front wheels, you shine a light down the sill, and there was like a centimetre of body coloured that you could see, then
Mm.
another centimetre of primer, and then there was bare metal in the place where lots of like water and salt and stuff would get thrown up. So there's no wonder, and they always go around the filler cap, and that's
Yeah.
because there's no wheel arches, no plastic wheel arch liner. It's just there, the steel, and to stop like vibrations, they put this sponge in between the fuel filler and the bodywork, which of course just soaks up all the salt and all the water and everything and holds it against the back of the steel, which has a very light layer of absorbent primer on it. So this one, thankfully, because it'd been kept garage, was immaculate. So it's now drowned in wax. And then I didn't really know what to do with it because it still wasn't worth anything. So it was MOT'd, and I used to take it occasionally and thoroughly enjoyed driving it. Um, and then I put it into a lockup around COVID time when it needed an MOT and I had other things on, and put a blanket over it, and I haven't really seen it since. I mean, I know it's there underneath the boxes and things, but my plan is to pull it out sometime when it's the last one left,
Mm.
and get it going again. But it's the problem, isn't it? If you've got a car which the MOT's expired and it's probably got old fuel in, it becomes a real hassle to get it going again. You have to book an MOT, you have to get someone over, you have to change the fuel filter, look at the brakes, wheel bearings, maybe replace the tyres. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I'll do it next year. So it's there.
Yeah.
I sometimes forget I have it. I assume, unless like a mouse has eaten its interior or something, it will be fabulous under there because it's still got 10,000 miles on it, and is spotless and rust free. Um, but I'm going to have to get it out sometime, I suppose. But I have other things to do.
It's a lovely thing. I remember the interior on that car was just
Mm,
beautiful, wasn't it? I can picture it now. It's one of those few cars you can sort of picture it. And the seats were really bum basic. Everything was
mm,
basic inside, wasn't it? It was just, but it just goes to show you that you don't have to spend a lot of money to create an incredible design. And it was just, and it was ergonomically great. It wasn't just like
mm,
swoopy and stylish, but then you couldn't find anything. It would just, it worked as well, didn't it? And I think that was just
mm,
one of the geniuses of it. And it was a better car than the Fiesta was, which cost more money.
mm.
Yeah, it was
Did
just
you also have
lovely.
the pull-out glove box that doubles up as a lunchbox?
I
No, it
don't
doesn't
remember
because
that.
That was
it's
only
a
on the high
slightly
spec
later
ones.
one. Yeah, it's a 2003, so it's got the slightly later engine, which has I think 10 more horsepower, and it's also got power steering, which I spoil myself, but it does make a bit of a difference to the way it goes. But rust kills them, but also racing kills them. So there is a Ford Cab racing series, and so
Nice.
people buy those. And there's something weird, like they all buy the ones with air conditioning because they've got slightly shorter gearing because the engine had so little power. They had to change the gearing on the ones that had air conditioning, otherwise they wouldn't go up hills basically. So they all look for those, and then they put those in decent shells. So that was my other fear when I was thinking I should probably sell it 5 years ago. I thought it's going to end up on either a banger racing track or going around a circuit and will be destroyed forever. And I didn't really want that to happen to it, so it's there somewhere. It's a lovely thing. The talking of the interior, Mike, one of the
Yeah.
cleverest things that I like about it is the carpet has been moulded to have a oddment tray. So instead of having a separate moulding for an oddment tray, they just put the carpet on.
Brilliant.
It's like they've made it out of sand or snow or something. It's just it's brilliant.
It's
All that
brilliant.
attention to detail, but none to the rust proofing.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
I think it got worse
exactly.
over time. The rust proofing, didn't it? By the time they'd taken out all the cost. But the strange thing about that car is it's longer than the Mercedes A Class, a Mark 1 Mercedes A Class.
Yes.
It was quite a
Yes.
long car, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it was astonishing. I mean, we covered this when we spoke about the A class. I said we couldn't believe it. So when we had an A class to come in, that's the same time we still had that red long term at Auto Express and
Mm,
parked them next to each other. And yeah, it just suddenly looked like a giant. This thing, but yeah, it was a lovely thing. Yeah, very very fond of the car, very much. And
mm,
Volkswagen's Lupo, which was the kind of their version of the sort of city car, it was very Volkswagen. It was kind of completely the opposite, wasn't it? It was very
mm,
kind of this is going to be a shrunken Golf polo kind of thing. So it's very sensible. I didn't like it as much. It was a better car, probably. It certainly felt more solid, didn't it? But
The Lupo
yeah,
GTI was great. The
Mm.
GTI version, that was brilliant.
it was. But if you're relying on that, I mean,
Mm.
you kind of think every GTI version of a car should be good, shouldn't it? But the car was at its best. For sport car, and whatever the soft top one was, what was that
Street
called?
car.
Street car.
Mm.
That's
You didn't
promoted
need
by
those.
Kylie. If you remember, Kylie
Mm.
was the
I do remember. Thank you. But yeah, the basic one was was all you'd need, isn't it? Whereas the Lupo, if you had status bum spec Lupo, it wasn't much.
Well,
Mm. I think.
the Lupo kind of worked a bit better as the SEAT Arosa, didn't it? Which was essentially the same car.
Yeah,
Mm.
it did. We
Mm.
had a long term one of those, didn't we, Tom?
We did. We had a peach coloured 1.7 normally aspirated diesel,
It was an
and
SDI, wasn't it? Yeah.
it, I mean, it was pretty
That was hard
awful.
work.
But there was a chap at Auto Express who we won't name, but he'd arrived, and I think he was going on a stag do, and we could hear him loudly on the phone saying to his mates, "Yeah, I work at a car magazine now, so I'll probably get something flash to drive up in." Unknown to him, he'd
Big
been
mistake.
he'd
Big
been
mistake.
he'd been heard by the lady who looked after the car list and allotted the cars for the weekend, who took exception to this and thought, right, I'll show you that's not how it works, pal. So she, instead of giving him one of the nice cars, she said, well, all we've got left is the Arossa. So he had to turn up to the stag do where all his mates were expecting him in something flash in a peach coloured Seat Arosa diesel. And I think he had to pick like four of them up on the way as well. So it won't have
Yeah.
been comfortable.
We used to call it the SEAT Arousa.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
bumpers were ribbed for her pleasure, apparently.
Oh dear. But the other thing with the Lupo, before it was launched, I don't know if you guys remember this, but they had a guerrilla marketing campaign where they went around like spray painting. They just had a little stencil, so it was only like an A5 stencil, and people would stick it up against a wall and they'd spray, and it had a wolf. And then everyone's meant to go, "Ooh, what's this?" Kind of in the
Yeah.
days before
I
social media.
remember.
Oh, isn't it crazy? Um, and I think they were meant to only do it on bill posters that were already there, but they did it on the wall of the office of Auto Express, this agency, clearly not knowing that it was the office of a car magazine. So we saw it and said to Volkswagen, "Oh, this campaign,
Yeah.
what's it do? Oh, yeah, we're doing it." So you wouldn't do it on anyone's wall then? No. At which point we sent them a picture, and it was an hour later. There's somebody there with a white paintbrush, looking sheepish, painting it over. But yeah, that was naughty.
I do
And
remember.
we should tell the story of how we ended up in our heart, shouldn't we, really?
Oh yes, we should do.
Yeah,
Yes.
so go back to
Yeah,
the
you drop
Cinquecento.
that in, and then I need to know more because there's plenty of aha and car stories, but I expect we've only got time for one of them today.
So yeah, so I used to have bought a Cinquecento Sporting. Well, this would have been back in 2010-ish, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
and it was a great car. It was a broom yellow, which was the colour that they all came in, and it was a 1996 car, so it was a P Reg, and the number plate was P911 MNH. Uh, and I thought, oh, hang on, P911, that could sell to a Porsche 911 owner. So I thought, well, there's no harm in trying to sell the plate. I think I paid about 600 quid for the car, so I thought I'll put the number plate up for about the same price, and if I sell it, I get a free car. So I advertised the number plate on eBay, and sure enough, it was bought by a Porsche 911 owner with the initials MNH. Who's a chap who lived in Wimbledon, and when the eBay thing came through, the name there was Mr. Morten Harket in Wimbledon.
I didn't know
So I dropped the guy an email and I said, I've got to ask the question, and please don't think I'm being rude.
that.
But are you the Morten Harket, as in the lead singer of Aha? And he replied with, I believe I'm the only Morten Harket. And yes, I am. And he was very, very friendly, and obviously he paid me instantly, which is very rare for eBay. But I guess that Morton Harket's not short the cash. And if you look up P911 MNH on the MOT website, I can confirm that I think he's moved on now, but he had a silver 911 at the time. He's now got a dark blue one, but he obviously still has the number plate.
Mm. But the
And then
connection
that
to
car ended up with Tom.
yeah, so I rang up Craig because I was just moving companies and I didn't want to lease another car from the company that I was at, so needed a kind of runaround to take the kids to school and stuff. And said, "What Cheetah Motors got in stock?" And he said, "Well, you can have this Cinquecento, but I need to do a plate transfer in it at some point. Is that all right with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, fine." So there was some paperwork correspondence of it going to Morten Harket. So I take that as my claim to fame that basically we were almost in Aha.
See, when I read this in the running order, I don't know why I didn't think number plate. I thought it was plate. I thought you had some sort of decorative plate or something on the wall or something like that, or something
Like a,
you eat off. And I was thinking, how on earth are you getting involved with this? Is there some
I'm going to
sort
have to find a Morten Harket decorative plate to put up in the background, aren't I?
of you are? I think we need to have the Morton Harket decorative plate from now on. Why didn't I? It's a car podcast. Why didn't I think plate meant number plate? I don't know. Maybe
I've no idea.
it's been a long week and it's only Tuesday. So yes, there we go. So, which of these cars that we've only briefly touched upon, but we are running out of time, would we say is Clanger's material? I'm going to include your Cinquecento, but not the Seicento in this, Craig. So,
Seichento's still cool. Still definitely a clanger.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
Seicento
well,
Sporting as well.
yeah, you can't just pick on the sporting one and say that defines the range because, as I've established,
Mm,
you know,
I think it's very. I think that the Cinquecento, Seicento, Twingo, they're all worthy of clanger canonisation.
Lupo,
I think,
Arosa.
If it's got lime green colour, then yeah.
yeah. And the thing of the Lupos, they've all been adopted, haven't they, by the VW crew who like to put them on 20-inch
Yeah.
wheels and slam them to the ground. So I think if there's an original one, it's quite a
Okay,
nice thing. The GTI had xenon headlamps as standard, I think,
Hmm.
which was
didn't it
very
just?
funky for the time.
Yeah.
So maybe Twingos are already caught on, aren't they? I mean, they've got a real
Yeah,
following in the
ship
UK,
that ship
especially,
sailed. Yeah, yeah,
and even
A
the
car,
yeah.
yeah,
Definitely the car.
definitely.
yeah,
I'd also put forward the City Bug. You know the C1 Peugeot 107 Toyota Aygo. Has that been new for you guys?
Too new.
too new,
Yeah.
too new.
Rolling that out.
Cool though. They're a very very good car.
Yeah,
Doesn't
they
matter.
were clever, but doesn't count.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
A Rossa, I can, not as much as
Oh,
the
when did you
VW.
last
Is it?
see an Arossa? When did you last see an Arossa? Craig, have you any come up at auction?
Occasionally, yeah. There was an orange one the other week that almost piqued my interest. Not enough to buy it though.
No, okay.
I did see one on holiday this summer, which I think I sent you a picture, Craig, where the obviously young driver had slammed it, of course, and put it on Porsche 924 wheels, which I thought was
Ah, yes, I remember that one. Yeah.
I thought that was quite a cool thing. But that isn't the last time I saw one.
We're bound to have forgotten some as well. So if you're listening and you're there ranting, going, you haven't mentioned the whatever, mention it. You can find us on Facebook or on Instagram and tell us what we've missed out.
Well, yeah, because we missed all that kind of a Malaysian and Korean stuff that was around the sort of same sort of time. But I mean, I think that's another pod, to be honest,
I
with
think
all
we should
those
do a
kind of
separate one on the rise of Korean cars because what happened with Japanese cars before Korean cars and what's happening with Chinese cars now and the Korean cars of that interim period. Tom obviously has some experience of working for a Korean car company, as do I, by a form of osmosis, really. So, yeah, I think the rise of Korea is probably a special.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that at one
Yeah.
point. We're gonna need to discuss next pods
Hmm.
cars.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put two forward. Given
yeah.
that the performance cars have done well for us in this podcast, I'm going to put two of our favourites of the era. It was a mad era for cars. I'm going to put the Subaru Impreza
Hmm.
and the Mitsubishi Evo, insert number here, because within about 18 months they went from 6 to 8, didn't they? So I thought that was an amazing time to be as part of a car magazine when all that stuff was coming out, and it didn't seem to be, it was a matter of weeks, wasn't it, before other stuff, an even faster one came out or another STI came out or whatever. So I don't know what you think, but that will be my proposal.
That sounds like a very good plan because I like talking about Imprezas.
I think we can do that. Yeah, I've got a good. I've certainly got a good Evo story to tell.
Good.
Two Believe
Okay.
stories to tell, actually. So yeah, I was going to propose the Mercedes W211, but we can do that later on, can't we? Do that in
Too
different.
new. Too new.
Too new.
Too new.
2003.
Do you?
Too new.
Tom spoken. That's it. It's been ruled out. That's it. Okay.
Overruled.
Overruled. We ought to. I've got to edit this, and it's already at 40 minutes, so we
Okay.
need to cut this short now. So please subscribe if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, and leave a review. It's always nice to hear from you. It helps our algorithm, and it also helps our egos. You can also watch this podcast on our YouTube channel and just search for Clangers Podcast. On social, you can follow us on Instagram at Clangers Pod, or just look us up as Clangers Podcast on Facebook. Let us know your thoughts and what cars you'd like us to cover next. If you have been, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you.